And there we are. Hi, Clint.
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic here. So I saw Brad was trying to get on just a few minutes ago, so we are starting in probably about 30 seconds here. So
Okay, cool. I love the lights you got going on in the back there.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, I love the light, pun intended.
Yeah, totally.
So lights are important. So yeah, I love having pretty lights around me and having the contrasting colors and the uh, it's just a nice, it adds visual interest as well
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
set.
You fill your home up or your space up with those things that, you love and just get you in that zone, right? I always think that like, wherever you crash, wherever you sleep needs to be your safe place, right? You need to make it so it feels good and it keeps you in alignment as much as possible. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. In 2019, I had the wonderful good fortune of being able to live in Italy for 6 months.
Oh,
And
nice.
one of the things that I noticed, I've always paid a lot of attention to architecture. And I
Yeah.
got to tell you, not because I have Italian heritage, but the Italians really know how to use light.
Oh,
Not
really?
In art, they have what they call chiaroscuro, which is having to do with the shades of light and dark and shadows and so forth, and how you play light in a painting. But when it comes to lighting buildings inside as well as outside, it's vastly different than here in the States. And so I was in constant awe. It didn't matter if I was in Rome, if I was in the Amalfi Coast, if I was in the South, if I was in the interior, if I was in Sardinia. They really know how to light their buildings to make so that you show off the best attributes, daytime or nighttime.
Yeah.
And so I really was astounded by that, and I paid attention to their placement of lights. And then, my studio name is Luxia Media, which is lux is light
Yeah.
in Latin, and I am. And so when I came back, I just started purchasing different lights and to create that feeling and that look in my environment, not just for myself, but also every time I would come onto the YouTube video, I would be able to light it up and add that visual interest and that general feeling of it's just beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I think now back when I was 16, I got a job for a while in a lighting showroom. I was actually their warehouse guy, right? So, but like I got to play with all the lights, all the outdoor lights and the indoor lights, and I would go out at night and like set up arrangements and stuff. So it was fun, and it's kind of where I fell in love, oddly enough, with like recess lighting. I love light when you can't see the bulb, right? Like it's just ambience, right? It's just there all around you, and you're like, where's it coming from, right?
Yeah, it does make a difference. And so it's funny because one of the hotels that I stayed in, as you know, they've got amazing lighting, of course, at the Barcelo and the
Hmm.
lobby where they had all the live music. They were very intent about if the furniture was lit from within it and it glowed and it changed colors from orange to red to purple to blue to, all sorts of different colors. But even also the rooms had beautiful recessed lighting throughout. And then when I went to an eco hotel afterwards, they kind of had the fluorescent green lighting, which is ironic because it's an eco hotel where you have all these palm trees and all this vegetation and these water fountains and everything. Then you go into the room and there's the green fluorescent lighting. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, this would have been so much better if they had incandescent bulbs instead of the
Yeah.
fluorescent lights.
Yeah.
So I think 6, 7 days later, I was moved to another room. And interestingly enough, in that room, they had both fluorescent and the incandescent, which just having the contrasting incandescent warmer bulbs felt so much better than
Yeah.
fluorescent green light. And that is not just something that is from the perspective of, of course there's the aesthetics of it, but if you there's a doctor, he's an ophthalmologist, an eye surgeon, he's a quantum eye surgeon, and his name is Dr. Jacob Montgomery, and I'm a student of his. I follow him very closely, and he talks about the light spectrum being from 350 waves of UV all the way to 3,000. And that's what your eye, the human eye, is able to detect, that
Right.
spectrum. And he talks about how fluorescent lights can actually make you sick, and how artificial lights from your screen, from your computer, it doesn't matter what the source is, but that light actually can cause mitochondrial dysregulation that can lead to, in his case, they wanted to crack his head open. That's
Yeah.
another discussion altogether. We can talk about that at another time. But the light that we
Well,
have in our environment does affect our health and our well-being. So,
yeah, I mean, it's like they say, like if you're going, once you close your eyes and you're without UV light coming into your eyes, it's like 30 minutes or an hour or something like that before your brain starts creating the melatonin for you to sleep. So you got to think that if you're looking at a screen right before you go to bed, you're delaying that process. But if you'll get your room nice and dark and just, read or do anything where, you have a softer light, then the sooner you go to sleep, the sooner that process starts, right? And you can actually sleep, better sooner than rather than putting yourself in kind of that heightened state as you pass out.
yeah, yeah. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. We're going to jump in. So
Okay.
first of all, I want to say thank you for tuning in, tapping in, turning on to Love and Money Secrets TV. I am so excited to be able to share you with the world, Clint. I kind of feel like I have the honor of having you debut on YouTube. You have an amazing human mind programming grid word code that I'm very excited to share with everyone, that you revealed and shared with us when we were at the week-long event in Cancun at the monastery. So before we jump in, I want to share a little bit about you with everyone so that they understand and start to comprehend a little bit about who you are. So Clint's background is he was an IT professional for over 15 years, and he was working for companies like eBay, PayPal, and Apple. USAF, and he's a USAF veteran. So now traveling the world and providing IT certifications while transitioning into manifestation coaching full time. So, how I got here was severely depressed after your brother had transitioned due to a pharmaceutical drug overdose about 8 years ago. And he was, and Clint was actually taking 14 prescribed medications daily just to get by. And now he's not taking any daily medications. So that is an incredible story in and of itself. I remember when you first shared that with us at the monastery. And some fun facts, which I think many of you will be shocked and surprised to hear, but I think this is going to be so encouraging and inspiring. Fun fact number one: he was homeless at 20 years of age with no high school education.
Yep.
Then was earning six figures in terms of his salary by the time he was 30 years old. So you've always had a map of the world hanging where you live. You've turned down, this is a very interesting fact, you turned down $250,000 to go meditate instead. And how is that? Well, he says here, use what feels relevant and right at the time. And so there you have it, my friends and gems. This is Clint, my wonderful brother from another mother, my fellow genius mystic healer. We talk every day since we've met. We literally rubbed shoulders side to side and hugged and kissed each other for 7 days, actually more than 7 days, because after the 7 day event, we continued this wonderful friendship. And there's a core group of us that we are pretty much bonded for life. So thank you for joining us on Love and Money Secrets, Clint.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the introduction. Yeah, it's it's been an interesting journey, and it's if anybody ever has any questions or anything, just reach out, ask me. I've been through a lot of really unique experiences. Some of them, were seemed really bad at the time. I look back and I realized there was a great benefit in them. And some of them have been pretty amazing. But I'll jump in, like what I wanted to do, and what Lillian gave me the opportunity to come and is share with you guys a process I started doing about a year ago, that I found really helpful. And just to kind of, background how the process came about, as Lillian said, about 7, 8 years ago, I was taking 14 pills a day. And this was right around the time that my brother passed from a pharmaceutical drug overdose. And so I was really stressed about it. I seemed like I was getting worse. Every time I went to the doctor, they just wanted to give me more medicine. And I'm like, when will this stop? Right. Like I don't want to, live my life this way. So I really started, looking outside of just general practice to go find solutions. Right. And I got into meditating and mindfulness. At first I was doing like 5 minutes a day, and I would feel some relief even in those 5 minutes. And I got kind of addicted, if you will, to that relief. Like, I was hiding in conference rooms and all this kind of stuff, trying to take little mindfulness breaks. And that helped me tremendously. It started to give me some clarity of mind, and I started to be able to make better decisions, find better healthcare providers who weren't trying to give me more medicine, but helped me get off the medicine that I was on. And I kind of hit a plateau at one point, and it was actually by just, I think, a short miracle. My psychiatrist at the time, I told him, I said, look, I want to take the next step. I want to get off the next round of medicine, but I said, what do I need to do? And I had mentioned to him that I was looking for guided meditations. And he actually wrote, a prescription on a scratch pad for to go check out Dr. Joe Dispenza. So, I started getting into deeper meditations, and really, I feel like that's where, for me, it kind of opened up, and I started realizing that there was, something there that was more powerful than I had ever imagined, and I really wanted to tap in. So that kind of comes into, I had an opportunity, to keep a lot of money, to make a lot of money. And I just said, I can't do it. I said, there is something so much more important to me than any dollar value out there that I need to go find and I need to discover. So I took a hiatus away from the corporate world and spent about 8 months, honestly, just trying to figure this out. And so what I'm going to show you is one of the things that I learned during that time that I was going through there. So what happened is there's a lot of techniques out there that people have, from, morning meditations, guided meditations, journaling, and all this kind of stuff. And I was looking for something that daily I could do and I would keep up with to help me kind of stay in alignment more often, right? And I'll draw something. There's, you hear a lot of people talk about frequency, but coming from an electronic principles background, there's an element to frequency that people kind of gloss over, and I'll just draw you a little something to make it make sense here. Sorry for having my back to you, but
It's all good.
so you have a frequency. When people are looking at a frequency and you determine like the hertz of that frequency, what you're talking about is how many times in a cycle that state occurred, right? So in this, you would say the frequency of this is 6 hertz, because the cycle completes 6 times, or the state is reached 6 times in it. So you can say that really what frequency is really the same thing as frequently, right? How frequently are you accomplishing this? So I knew that, for where I was with, chronic depression, chronic anxiety, ADHD, right? Hard meditation was just hard anyways, just to stay focused, that I knew I needed a daily routine, and journaling at the time wasn't really getting it there for me. I was doing some guided meditations and I could make it about 2 weeks on them. And then it didn't evolve enough for me. It just became very routine, and I needed something that was flexible and would let me grow. So I was actually doing some research on the teachings of Abraham through Esther Hicks. And I heard her mention, she was talk a lot about something called your grid, right? And there's a new grid every day, but I didn't really know what it was. I looked through some of her books, couldn't find anything specifically on it, or I didn't, not that it's not there. But there was a comment she made. She's like, you might have 12, 16, or 20 words. And just, it clicked in my mind that those were all multiples of 4. So instantly in my mind, I had this picture of a grid, and then it just kind of flowed. So let me show you what it looks like, right? What I do is I start out first thing in the morning with a word like happy. I ask myself, I wake up, I go sit on the couch, and I go, how do I want to feel today? Right. And if happy is that word, then what I think about is I write that word down and I go, now, what does happy mean to me? What does happy feel like? Have I ever been happy? Do I know what happiness looks like? I want to become familiar with happiness, right? I want to experience happiness. I want to give happiness. I want to embody happiness. And I'll just spend a minute and just think on happiness. I might even in a mantra in my mind, just close my eyes and just say happy, 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 right? Until I grow all that up. And then what started to happen is I started to experience what I call instant manifestation because I would feel happy, right? And I'd go, oh, yeah, that's what that feels like. And when you feel that, it changes your brain chemistry. You start to think about things differently. You start to perceive things differently. But I would touch that feeling, right? But, where do I go from there? So I feel happy. So maybe something was, maybe I had, a challenging phone call or a hard meeting or something difficult that day, or something was nervous. Maybe I felt unsure of myself. So I realized that when you have those kind of negative emotions, those lacking emotions, they're an ask for something better. So if you're feeling afraid, what you're really doing is asking to feel safe, right? If you're feeling sad, you're asking to feel happy. If you're you know feeling lonely, you're asking for belongingness or togetherness or affection. There's always an ask on the other side of it. So I would just go, well, if what I'm feeling is unsure of myself, then what I want to feel is sure. I want to feel sure. I want to feel calm, right? So I would just draw a line and I would write sure. And then I would go, same thing with happy. What does sure mean to me? When did I feel sure? I want to recognize sure. I want to know it. I don't want to just write it down and acknowledge the letters on a page. I want to experience it right now in this now moment. And so I would sit there and go for it. And I'll be honest, sometimes these words would be hard and I would get as close. If I couldn't hit a word, I just get as close to it as I could. Like, there was a word a lot of people use is freedom, right?
Mhm.
I'll be honest, the concept of freedom sounded amazing to me. Like, I want to be free. I don't want to worry about things. I want to have abundance and all this kind of stuff. But I didn't know what freedom felt like. I honestly started to realize I had no idea. So I would just reach for it and reach for it and reach for it, but I knew if I just kept reaching for it, that someday I would find it, right? And honestly, it was just a couple weeks ago, right, when we were in Cancun, that I had that experience, and I felt this overwhelming, amazing feeling. And I was like, what is this feeling? It feels so incredible. And I asked myself, what is this feeling? And it just came to me. This is the feeling of freedom. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember this. I can now add this to my repertoire, right? So now I know what freedom feels like, and so it goes that way. Sometimes you're looking for an emotion, you're looking for a feeling, you can't always find it. Don't give up. You just keep asking for it, because I believe, and I'll be honest, I know this to be true in my own experience, is that your inner being or God or source or whatever you want to call it wants this for you more than you want it for yourself. And if you'll reach for it, it'll find a way to bring and connect that thing for you. But can you continue on with the grid? So what I do is I just start creating, a little square grid of these words, these feelings that I want, my targets, right? So, I've got, maybe a busy day. Maybe I want to feel motivated, right? So I would add motivated to my grid, right? And then I might add, love. Everybody wants some love. I want to be love. I want to feel love. I want to see love. I want to experience love. I want love in my grid. So I put love in there, right? And I like to have fun. I want things to be
Yes.
playful, right? I want to enjoy life. So, I would add fun to my grid, and I would start designing my day. And as I'm thinking about the things that I might experience through the day or whatever, I ask myself, how do I want to feel? How do I choose to experience that? Right. And so I would put myself in the driver's seat and control those experiences, not control them really, but lead them from my own perspective. So, there's safe if you're having mystical experiences. And, sometimes these things can be overwhelming and they're scary. And you're like, whoa, what did I just see? And, I'll be honest, there was a time where I didn't really kind of believe in a lot of that. But like, as I start to have them, all of a sudden you're like, reality check, like what just happened, right? And so it's okay to ask to feel safe, right? This infinite intelligence that's available to all of us, it doesn't want to terrify you. It has no intent to do that, but we have to calibrate ourselves to be ready for these things. So safe is something you can absolutely add. And this is what I love about the grid, because the words I use are not the words you have to use. They're especially the words, they're not the words you need to use. You need to use the words that are emotional triggers for you. And I'll talk a little bit about the emotional trigger and what that does if you repeat this daily, right? So, just coming up with some other words we'll throw in here, joy, and what else do we got here? Maybe, one that I love, one of my favorite words is clarity. I love to have clarity, right? I love to feel like I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it, and I'm sure of it, and it's the right thing to do. So I would sit alone and I would feel these emotions. And then what I would do is the next day, after I was done with that, I'd kind of go on with my day. I wouldn't think about it again. The next day I would come back and I would ask myself, I would do my grid for the day, and then I would turn back a page in my journal and I'd go, okay, so these were the feelings I wanted to feel. And I would start to think through the day, did these feelings show up anywhere in the day for me? And maybe I'd realize, and if I, at first, I'll be honest, I had to look hard, right? I had to really look for the little crumbs that were there, but it became more and more, and it became easier and easier. So I would write, oh yeah, I had a call with, my mom that went really well. We've had a rough relationship, and it went way better than expected. And it was only 5 minutes, and it was only mildly better, but it was better. So I would write it down, and I would teach myself that I am doing this, right? That I am making these conscious choices, because if I hadn't put myself in that state, that call would have went the same way all the calls for years before it went, right? To that point. I'm not joking. Me and my mom had a rough relationship. It's very fantastic now. Since I've been practicing my grid work, like, we have a really great relationship. And, so that lets me know that a lot of that problem that I had for years, I was feeding into. And when I quit feeding into it, problem went away. So, like, it's a truth check that we all have to understand, is sometimes the problems we're facing are us, right? Because we're being sloppy about how we think. We're not really jumping in and taking the time to be conscientious of the power of our consciousness and make the decisions to get us to our goals, right?
Yeah.
So
And also the expectations that you had. So we've all heard the saying that when you change, everything changes. When you change the way you think, everything around you changes, because it has to react differently based on whatever change you're embodying and incorporating. So you, in effect, by having the inspiration to write down this grid work and intuitively listening to yourself, it's like, okay, if I'm unsure about something, what do I want? I want to be sure. I love what you said here. You said that that negative emotions are an ask. I've never heard anybody language that before in that manner, but it is so true. So when you experience sadness, anger, grief, frustration, mad, annoyed, irritated, whatever negative emotion, that's your inner being. Your soul is asking for the opposite of those things.
it's trying to give you guidance.
It's trying to give, it's your guidance. So it's like, if you're like, oh, in doubt and you're not sure, well, you want, like you said, you want clarity, you want certainty. You want to, instead of being unsure, you want to be sure. So then you write down the word sure.
Yeah.
If you're mad or unhappy, you want to, instead of being unhappy, the ask is you want to be happy.
Yeah.
And so that, I think this is I think a huge distinction for anyone watching here right now. Whatever feeling that you have that doesn't feel good, that is your emotional ask for what you actually do want. So just pay the price of paying attention
Yep.
and notice what that negative feeling is, and the opposite of it. If you are feeling fear, the opposite of fear is love. The opposite of unsure is sure. So, Clint, that is just a phenomenal. The fact that you understood that, the fact that you've been able to language it this way with us, and to articulate what that actually means for us, because there's not a human being that walks the face of this earth that doesn't have a negative emotion.
Right. I mean, it is part of our growth. It's part of how we form and develop. And, I think that, and this is, This is true of all of us. We're all babies at some point, and someone gave us things. Someone gave us milk and food, and they did things for us, and it was really, really great. And then we become older, and no one's doing anything for us, right? So you know what I mean? Like, so we wake up, and our heart's crying out for something, but no mom's coming around to give that to us, you know? So we feel like because no one is satisfying these holes in our heart, these asks in our heart, that we're just stuck with the ask. We're just stuck with the ask. We're stuck with the negative emotion. But really, what we need to do is just own up and go, you know what? Look, if this is my ask, it's on me to give that back to myself. I'm asking for this from myself. I'm God. I have God in me, and God in me is asking for this thing. I've got the creative power to just take a moment and start to shift that life. And so, you know, you think I can go back through, you know, my journal here. So this is just
Yes.
one of them, but you know, I've got page after page of where I've made these grids day after day
Good.
for almost a year, right?
Yeah,
I
put it
have,
closer. Would
oh,
you
sure.
just
Yeah,
put it a
yeah.
little closer to the camera so we can? Because I remember seeing that in person, and I was just kind of in awe how page after page after page you showed us all the different grids that you had, and it
Yeah.
just it so resonated with me. This is like unbelievable.
So I do what I found worked for me was 4 by 4. I liked this because it gives me 9 tiles in the middle. So I like the numbers of it. If you do, you know, if you do 3 by 3 or 3 by 12, I'll be honest, I've tried it all. I've tried 3 by 12. I've tried, or, you know, 3 by 4. I've tried 5 by 5. I've tried all these different things. The one that worked for me was 4 by 4. That's where I really found comfortable. So again, not trying to give you a super precise prescription. Let this evolve from you, right? I have filled this in where there was a period of time where what I would do is like, I'll be honest, when I was starting in this, I didn't know what happy felt like. I really didn't, right? And this was before I was doing my grid work. I was having a hard time even understanding as a guy being in the military, all this stuff. There was so much emotional repression. I didn't know what these feelings were. I had through labor and effort literally made tons of money. I had pretty much anything I wanted, but I was miserable, right? So I had my daughter and we were watching Pete's Dragon, and there's a scene where, you know, Pete falls off the dragon and she falls through the smoke. And, you know, I could tell my daughter, she's 2, she's all nervous, she's watching. Then all of a sudden, Elliot the dragon comes up and Pete's on it, and she just starts laughing and clapping. She's so happy. And that happiness was so infectious that I started laughing and then I started crying. And for the first time, I felt happiness. And then I realized, oh, I've got an emotion. That's what happiness is. I've got to capture that, right? And that's what we got to do. We've got to work through and try to find out what these asks are in our life, what they're calling for, and find that emotional signature. You know, there's when you think about like a tiger shark in the water, like and they're hunting, right? If there's blood in the water, the tiger shark's just kind of, you know, going along out there, and it gets a little scent of the blood. And as it moves through the water, if the scent gets weaker, it knows to turn. And if the scent gets stronger, it knows to just keep dialing in. And so it does that because it understands what the signature of what it's craving is. You have to understand what the signature of what your craving is. And then you need to experience and you need to know it, because then when as you go through your day, things that feel a little bit closer to that, things that are on the path to the manifestations that are behind all of these feelings, you're going to connect to them. You're going to have an intuition, a guidance. It's going to set you up. If you wanted to do an exam, a test to just see if this would work, just because maybe you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't recommend you do this, but you could do this. You could wake up in the morning and without trying to decide how you want to feel, just make a grid of how you feel. Maybe it's tired, grumpy, sleepy. You know what I mean? And then I guarantee if you come back the next day, you will see how those things manifest because you've already got that momentum, right? When you start doing this and you make that shift, you're going to have to build that momentum. We talked about that frequency, right?
Mhm.
You want to add that into your life every day. You know, add these emotions you should be experiencing. If you're saying that, you know, you want to manifest something because the feeling that you'll get from that manifestation is love or happiness or freedom, if you're not practicing those emotions, are you really trying to manifest that, right? Because you got to get ready for that state. You can't wait for the manifestation to come to start having those feelings. You need to find those feelings before you get there. So practice them, reach for them, explore them, learn what they are to you, and connect with them. So
So let's talk a little bit about, because when, you know, right now we see you as this bright, shiny object that's perfect and glossy, and, you know, you're on the other side of that place where you were, you know, when you were 8 years ago, you were taking 14 pills, you were still repressing, depressing. and not wanting to feel certain negative emotions, especially. Your heart was probably closed. And I know, we've talked about this in the past. I know what it's like to be with a closed heart because I did the same thing. Things happen in your life that now you shut down and you close your heart as an act of protection. This is the human condition. It's our choice to close it, and it's also our choice if we want to open it, even if we didn't really know how to close it, and yet we did it. And just the same, we don't know how to open it, but we can choose it and it will open. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that because a lot of us have had to go through that path where, we're all born with an open heart, and then something happens that now you have to close it. So the trauma of you being in the military, I don't even want to imagine all the things that you experienced, but it's plenty. You have plenty of evidence and plenty of good reasons to want to close it because you can experience some pretty horrible things when you're in the military because war and everything that goes along with that is probably one of the darker sides of what humanity has to endure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you were at a point where you were kind of, I would imagine you felt kind of numb, and you weren't able to identify what happy felt like. You probably couldn't identify what love felt like. So share with us, if you could give us, peel back that curtain, that veil.
Some of that journey.
Yeah, so share, because it is, it's a quantum leap. You didn't go from there to right now. It was a progression. And I think what people don't realize is we think, as human beings, we think that things are linear, that all of life is linear, but it's not. The
Yeah.
truth of the matter is that at first you start off and it appears to be slow at the beginning, but then before you know it, it's like an upward. It's not like a gradual curve. It's like you kind of have a quantum leap where all of a sudden, whew, right now you're on that upswing of the curve, which it's infinite. There's no ceiling to how far up you're going to go. And as happy and excited and as open-hearted and as extraordinary as the mystical experiences that you're having, and all the feelings and emotions, they're just going to continue to propagate and exponentialize as you continue to move forward because that's the path you have chosen.
Yeah.
But it's not that way, and it doesn't even seem possible when you're in that closed-hearted, more of a numb feeling place where you don't allow yourself. I know I didn't allow myself to feel anger. I did not allow myself to feel sadness. I did not allow myself to feel frustration or irritation. I just didn't want to feel anything. I would feel happiness, joy, laughter, excitement. But when it came to those emotions that were below the
Yeah.
500 hertz, I was in complete denial. And I'm like, nope. And I became an expert at suppressing that, depressing it, repressing it. So speak a little bit about that and your journey. It's a little bit, I do
Sure.
want to say that it's different for a girl than it is for a guy. And so I think together you have the male, the divine masculine energy, and I've got the divine feminine. So together we can basically appeal to the masses.
Sure. No, absolutely. And it's great questions, and I'm glad to, because not only do we have a tendency to think that things are linear, and when you don't know what the possibility feels like or that it exists, how do you even know that you're looking for it, right? So for me, that's why I'm thankful things got as bad as they did, because if they didn't get that bad, I would have never set out on this path. And it took me many years to get to the point that I could look back and go, I'm really thankful that that really horrible experience happened to me. But I am, because I'm better for it. Does that mean that people need to have really horrible experiences? No, this is the big secret, right? You don't have to hit the bottom to start rising. You can start wherever you are. But you got to practice those feelings, and you got to get committed to the walk. Sometimes for a lot of us, it takes things to get uncomfortable enough for us to make that commitment, to want to make that jump and move. It's just, and that's okay. Maybe if that's how it starts for you, that's fine too. But I don't want anyone thinking that they have to have a terrible experience, right? To have a wonderful experience that follows.
Improve.
Right. But yeah, so that journey, I like to think about it like I use the inspiration of Machu Picchu. You've got that staircase, right? Thousands of steps that go up Machu Picchu. When you're going through this, for me, the experience a lot like was sometimes there's a step up, right? And I can feel that uplift and it feels really good, but then I'm on that step for a while, you know what I mean? And I'm hanging out there until, things come together and you take the next step and the next step and the next step. And sometimes you turn a corner and there's a new vista and view, and you can tell the elevation has increased. It is a journey over time. It took me a good part of 7 years to finally get to where I am today, where now I don't take medications daily. And I'll be honest, I'm not even afraid to say I still have some backup medications that I keep, just in case something happens, right? I'm not anti-medication. I'm anti-dependency, right? If you're going to just let that pill become your happiness forever, it's not going to work. It might be able to simulate some relief. It might be able to really help you get to that zone. You're talking about kind of emotional repression or hiding. Even that as a technique for a period of time can be good. Look, if things are really terrible and you kind of want to shut out the noise of the bad and create a little safe space to feel happy, that's good. But all of those things are asks. You have desires on the other side of every single one of them, and your heart's not going to quit wanting them. So at some point, you have to get strong enough to welcome those things back in and find out what's on the other side of it. And then typically, what I've found, for me, at least in my experience, is what's on the other side is something clearly I want, but the pain I'm feeling is my own way of thinking about the situation. I think I can't do it, or there's a limiting belief, or there's a fear or judgment or opinion or something that is really just making that situation terrible for me, that keeps me from moving forward or keeps me from making a decision or taking that ownership, right? So, I do think that at some point those things come back, and you can't live your life hiding from them, because they're you, and it doesn't matter where you go. They will follow you. You can change jobs, you can change houses, you can change relationships, all that kind of stuff. Like it will follow you through. And I don't want that to sound terrible or horrible. It is an ask for happiness. And there is, if I wish, that I could share all of my thoughts and all of my experiences with everybody, just so that they would understand that for every single person on this planet, that it is possible. It is possible. Life wants it for you. You're fully capable. There's nothing out of reach in the realm of goodness for you. You're just going to have to reach for it. And it may get uncomfortable. You may have to go into the unknown. You might get new experiences. You might sometimes be confused. You might not always have the answers, but you just keep asking for it, and you just keep going and reaching for it. And as often as you can, one of the most powerful things that I've found in my practice lately is really just starting to understand, if this is how I want to feel, I can feel it right now. And I found that as I started to find these feelings and I create this grid, what this grid becomes for me is that's a snapshot of me. When I look down and I've wrote this and I've said this is who I want to be today. That's like a little Clint there smiling, saying, hey, this is who I am, right? And I'm starting to recognize what I am and what my values are. And proud is a difficult word for me, right? Because coming from I had early Protestant backgrounds, pride goeth before the fall, pride's a deadly sin. Like, pride, like, don't ever be proud of yourself. If you are happy about any of your accomplishments, you're most likely going to perish in fire, like kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, so
People
pride.
inherit the earth.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really hard, but you know what I mean? Like now I can look at this and I know why I'm proud. I'm proud of myself because I get up every day and I show up for myself. I'm proud because I make a concerted effort, and I'm proud that no matter how hard it gets, I continue to go, right? You can be proud, and you got to develop the relationship with those feelings and with those emotions and stuff like that. And I find this is a good technique for that. And I always like to say, if this technique's not resonating with you, don't do it, right? Like do what works for you. If you want to get up in the morning and you want to paint a picture because you're an artist, maybe you get like oils and you got canvas and you paint and that gets you into an amazing feeling place, that's what you need to do. Do that thing that works for you. But if the things that you found out there aren't working for you, you can give this a shot and and make it your own. You don't have to do a square. Make a triangle grid. Make it, I don't know, however you want to do it, but take some time. And this is really self-exploration. What is my emotional palette? What do I want? How do I feel? What do these things mean to me? This is self-discovery. And I think it's really helpful for any of us just take those moments and do that. But coming, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say you said something again, another distinction which I find very powerful because you're saying you said that if you know this may or may not resonate with people, and I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people. But I love the fact that you pointed out, for an artist may want to use painting, but they can actually put down 3, 6, 9 words of the feeling that they want to have manifest as a result of the painting that they draw.
Creative,
Now,
inspired, beautiful, all of
exactly.
those.
So now that you have, okay, your 9 words as an example, or 16 words, now you're going to create a painting that is going to make you feel that and embody it. Just the same, you could have a musician who either composes lyrics for a song, or perhaps they're just playing music and they use those words. It's like, okay, I'm going to create music that makes me embody and feel these feelings based on these words. And so just as you would write musical notes, you're writing words. And
Hmm.
that is guiding, instead of kind of a more somber, melodramatic, melancholic, minor toned music, you're going to pick major tones music with more harmonic chords, with either a more of a romantic feel or a more uppity beat, excited feel or a powerful feeling, depending on what words are on your grid. But again, it's like the architectural backbone of how you want to feel, because it's just a conduit for your feelings so that you have something to focus on now and convey that experience in the actual member of your body.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And and I was thinking about that, even kind of like, when you think about the inspiration when we get creative that comes to write a song or paint a picture, or, I draw, sometimes I'll write a little poem or whatever. Definitely no, not to the caliber of any professional artist, but, you know, when I get inspired, I have an emotion first, and then that emotion leads it. When I was young and, I'd get sad, somebody break up with me and I'd write a sad song, and I would express that emotion through the thing. So, like, I love what you're saying there because, for an artist, if you want to make something beautiful, spend some time and feel beautiful. What does beautiful mean to you? Is it inspiring? Feel inspiring. What does inspired mean to you? Is it creative? Is it colorful? Any words. That's why I say, like, you don't have to use these words. You got to find the words that are the emotional trigger for you, right? And on that, if you don't mind, I'll segue a little quick. And this kind of also talks into, what my approach to this development was. I spent a lot of time, seeing my brother go through addiction, having addictions myself, then being put on prescribed addictions. Habit was huge to me, and I realized, in IT, managing teams, your team's habit, all of these things are really important, right? So I studied habit. Like, what is a habit? There's a great book called The Power of Habit, right? If you ever want to check that out, it kind of breaks down the psychology of habit and what goes on there. But there's always a trigger or a craving, right? Then there is an action and then a reward, right? And this is what establishes a habit. So if I write down this word and seeing that word becomes a trigger or creates a craving for happiness, and then my process is to allow myself to feel happiness, the reward is instant when I feel happy. And as soon as you do that, you have just inserted into your brain the makeup for a habit. So if I do that every day, I will establish a habit of happiness. I can establish a habit of love. I can establish a habit of fun. And when it becomes a habit, you know what? That's where walking occurs. It's everything, because now in your life, as you're just going through your day by day, and whatever you're doing, you have a habit of being happy. You have a habit of laughing. You have a habit of being fun. You know what I mean? And doesn't that just sound like a good life? Just to have a habit of the good emotions that you want in your life.
Yeah. So what you're saying is so powerful because, of course, I tend to look at things as a neurosomatic practitioner from how it affects the actual 8 systems of the body. And so, really, what you're saying with habit is that as you continuously repeat this pattern of focusing on happiness, focusing on freedom, on fun, on these positive emotions of love, of being open hearted, safe, clear, certain, excited, what happens is that the neurological pathways of your brain start to groove, and they start to go in deeper into the brain, where instead of it being a light little groove on your brain, it starts to go deeper and deeper. And the engraving in your brain, if you want to think of it as an engravement, it goes, they're deeper pathways that are established, so that it's less likely that you will fall off the train and not come back to it, because now it is like cemented quite literally into your brain. And now the more you do it, the less effort it takes, because now you're on autopilot. Now
Hmm.
your new state of being is to be open-hearted with love, joy, happiness, freedom, fun, safe, clarity, certain, whatever words, whatever the combination of words, the potpourri of words that you've picked. But that higher state of being, which is from the Hawkins scale of frequency, you have 528 hertz is love, and then you have above that joy, 600, bliss, 700, 800, etc. But you're going to start to play with those frequencies that are in the higher realms, as opposed to fear, 100 hertz, resentment, frustration, irritation, which are 75, 50, 25. They're literally
Yeah.
lower vibrational frequencies.
Yep. Yeah, 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 absolutely. And when you mentioned autopilot, right? I know, part of the process of mindfulness, a lot as we're taught, is to break ourselves out of autopilot, right? And come to a conscious moment where we can make a decision. But what do we do? There's a lot of people that tell you how to get to the conscious moment, but what do you do once you get to the conscious moment? Do you just think about nothing? Well, what I do is I make a decision on how I want to feel and what I want my life to be. And I start to practice those, because the thing is, we're all going to go back on autopilot. My heart's beating on autopilot. My fingernails are growing on autopilot. I don't, it would be very taxing to do everything, with conscious intent awareness on every single thing. If I had to consciously think about every step I took, I would get nothing else done, right? So autopilot's not a bad thing, but is your autopilot taking you where you want it? Have you programmed into the GPS of your autopilot coordinates, so that when you go onto autopilot, you can relax and go, yeah, I know, hey, I was on autopilot, but I know the coordinates I put in there. I know what I've built into my subconscious, and I know that it can take me where I want to go. So I can be a little bit, I can let go. I can go have fun. I can say, hey, look, I'm going to go for a jog. And, I'm not going to try to figure out the mysteries of the universe. I'm just going to enjoy the trees and the people I'm running past. And I'm just going to go on autopilot, because I've established these routines and habits of the person that I want to be. And so just by jogging, I'm manifesting myself out there in the real world.
So let's talk a little bit about. I want to really address the issue, because I want people to be aware there's always more than what meets the eye. And so you are actually taking states of being that you are aware that you can become. You're using your free will
Hmm.
and your conscious awareness. You're focusing it like a laser beam on, let's say, happiness, on fun, on safety, etc. Whatever 16 words or whatever combination of words that you're using, and you're taking it from an interior location in your brain, and you're actually bringing it out into the 3D world, where you actually are using literally pen to paper. Your
Yeah.
brain is now, you think it, you're seeing it, you're kinesthetically feeling it as you write it on your piece of paper. Even if you were to type it down on your computer, which I would encourage people really to just take pen to paper, old school, instead of doing it on their computer. Because
Yeah.
I think as you actually, whether you print or write cursive, doesn't matter, but you're actually feeling your hand on the paper, and you're really writing in what it is that you want, and your brain is seeing that, and you're actually quite literally writing it into the programming of your brain.
Yeah.
And then
It,
as you ponder it, it's going in at a deeper level. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really what we're looking at is layers of instant manifestation. So if you can think on a feeling and feel that feeling, that's an instant manifestation. When you make a choice that I want to focus on happiness, and you write happiness down, that's a manifestation. That's you, you're exercising your natural abilities and talents and power of creativity right there. And like, you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to, like, all you really need to know is how to write happy. And I'll be honest, I think that if you didn't know how to write happy and you drew a circle with two dots and a smile in it, it would
Work.
work too, right? Like, well, you just need to create a trigger, and to help you elicit that, and then have that conscious thing. I agree with you. I think you could do this on a computer. I think you could do it however you want. I love the pen and paper because it's real, it's creation. I'll be honest, there was a time, even just a month or so ago, where I just got up one morning and I was wore out. I had really been working, studying, and just trying to understand some things and get through. And I was just like, you know what, maybe I should just give up. Maybe I don't know, and this is funny because I've made all this progress, but I still have these moments where I'm just like, I don't know. I'm unsure of myself, right? And I'm holding in my hand this book, and I realize I have my own personal indictment that this works every day, right? I can look back and go, oh yeah, I felt that. And then I went back the next day and I confirmed that I felt that. And you know what I mean? So it's like it's a record, right? It says that this is who I am and I practice this every day. And this is, it gives you something tangible that you can look back. You might be able to delete a file on your computer, your hard drive swipe, but I mean, even the book, you could lose, but still, I love the tactile sensation of having something to hold in my hand, and just practice writing. I started in the beginning. It's funny because I didn't have very good handwriting, but I really, it meant so much to me. So when I would write, I'd write really slow. So I'd make one little line down for the H and I'd go back to grade school in my mind, and I'd try to make, and I'd just put as much attention into the words as I could and just give it all of my focus. Because, it's funny, having went through battles with, medications and, like, please no one just go quit, stop taking all your medicines at once. It is, don't do it. I tried, it's horrible, the withdrawals are terrible. Like, so like, to me, I worked with my medical team and they knew what I was doing. We would talk about how to exit off of medicine and there was a plan, but in all those things, right, all the tools that are out there, all the techniques, all the things, and I'm sitting here with a pen and paper and I'm writing the word happy and I'm getting more results out of that than I have out of anything else I've ever, experienced by just going through this process. And it makes it special to me. And that's why I really also just encourage, make it work for you, right? If you could do a triangle, you could make a grid triangle, you could make any shape you want, right? Make
Yeah.
it something you love and something that's fun and something that works for you. And because you'll get the most reward. You're putting love into it and it's loving you back at that same moment. And it's not an overnight thing, right? It might be. I always believe and say that the universe can deliver anything as soon as today. I've seen some really miraculous things happen, but sometimes it takes a little while. You have to kind of get that engine turning, and you got to build up some momentum and frequency. Do you mind actually if I just on momentum just kind of draw a little something? What I experienced in my life is that, if I'm headed a direction to a target, right, and my patterns stay the same and I'm going to go to this target, what happens is I start to get collaborative elements that, support that. Maybe it's my job, maybe it's the car I buy, maybe it's the friends I hang out with, maybe it's, people I know or bills or services. But what happens is you start to, as you head in a direction, you're going to find all those collaborative things that support you in your life. Well, what happens if you change your direction? So now I want to go, I'll draw this over here. I want to go toward my grid. I want to go over here. I've got a new direction. So if this is where I'm at in my life and I decide I want to make this turn and I want to head this direction, all of that old momentum stays there. And all of it is going to tell you that you're going the wrong way, right? It's going to tell you that you can't, right? Because you changed. It didn't. All that momentum just stayed right where it was. You're the one that's changing. And that is going to feel like turbulence, right? But if you keep practicing, you will start to build momentum in the new direction, just like you did in the old direction. Sometimes you got to hang in there and you got to ride the story. You got to ride through the turbulence. You got to ride through the shakes and the bumps. And there's moments, just like I said, even a month ago, I'm having some turbulence and I'm like, oh, can I do this? But then I look and like I've practiced enough. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, Clint. You can do this. Just hang in there. Just buckle up, Buttercup. Like you gotta ride through this, right? So you know, commit to yourself. Do it for yourself. No one can do it for you. No one else is going to do it for you. Do it for yourself.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say that you mentioned, as you're putting together this grid work and as you're doing this for yourself, and it's a commitment to you because you're not really
Mhm.
committing to anybody else when you do this. This is for your benefit. And like Clint said, no one can do this for you. But another thing that you're actually activating as you write the words down, as you think them, as you write them, and then as you feel them, is your RAS, your reticular activating system, which is in the back of your brain, is actually activated now because you've given it a command to pay attention to. The words he wrote here was happy, freedom, fun, sure, love, safe, motivation, joy, clarity. So we've talked about in our group, we've talked on Love and Money Secrets TV about how, you're looking at the unwanted. And I always say that the left hand side, the east, is the unwanted. And so the scriptures talk about turning the other cheek 180 degrees in the opposite direction. You give your back to what you don't want. And now you're focusing on happy, freedom, fun. Let's see, what is it? Love, safe, motivation, joy, clarity, sure. So now you're looking at that, and your reticular activating system is like, oh, is that what she's looking for? So then it starts to pick out from the landscape from everywhere that you're looking at. It only picks out those things. It's not going to pull sadness. It's not going to pull anger. It's not going to pull fear because your instructions were happy, freedom, fun, sure, love, safe, motivation, joy, clarity. You could have had Mercedes, Jag, Porsche, and now you would find Mercedes, Jag, Porsche because you programmed that in. You're like, oh my gosh, all day long I see Mercedes, Jags, and Porsches all day long. So whatever it is that you are focusing on, that you've actually programmed into your head, this is really literal. I think more than people even realize. But you're
Yeah.
literally, just as in your particular case, you literally program computers, but you're literally computing and programming the human mind to sort, sift, and separate these specific things that you chose, that you wanted to see more of in your life. And then so it is, or in Hebrew, there's a word abracadabra. I speak, therefore it is what abracadabra means. So
Oh, I
you,
didn't know that. That's really cool.
yeah, I speak, therefore so it is. That's what
Yeah.
abracadabra means. And so that's what you're exactly doing. You're
Yeah.
speaking, you're declaring, you're invoking, these are the things that I want to see more of in my life. So I'm thinking it, I'm feeling it, and now I'm manifesting it in my reality.
Yep. Yep. And then your synchronicities are going to match those, right? And you're going to see those, right? And you got to that's why I like to go on the second day and go back, and look at the first grid because really, again, I'm training my RAS, right? My reticular activation system, right? That's that like the tiger shark, right? It's instead of your nose to smell blood, that's that part of your brain that if you tell it this is a high value target, it's going to find those everywhere it can. It's like think about it this way, like if you're in a noisy room and someone says your name, out of all the noise you'll hear your name
Yeah.
because it's a high value target to you. Your reticular activation system, your senses are dialed into the noise that sounds like your name. And so when you hear that, despite how much, and sometimes like my name's Clint, so people like there's quit, there's all these other sounds that sound like it. So I'm always like, what? Someone's saying my name, but like because my mind is tuned into those sounds, right? So the same thing is tune yourself into those emotions. That's your body is going to go, oh, look, that's fun. And oh yeah, there's happy. And oh yeah, that, there is clarity. And when you can, and if you can, when you find yourself really having that synchronicity where you're just like, man, I feel really good right now. And you notice that you feel good, take 10 seconds, just 10 seconds, and just go, what is this feeling? And map that emotional signature in your body. How does it feel? My shoulders are relaxed. I'm standing straighter. How does this feel right now to me? And if it's a new experience, name it, create a connection. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't matter if you're using the same name, the same word everybody else is using, but if it feels good, then you're going to go, man, this is good. So good's a word. That's your good is now your trigger for that. I want to feel good. And when you say good, your mind's going to take you right back to that moment. And when you go back to that moment, your brain doesn't know that that moment's not happening right now, right? So it starts to remember that. You start to play that memory. And what happens is you feel that feeling in your body. And that's that instant manifestation. This is healthy for your body. It gets your brain chemistry and everything working in a way that it can create healing and create love and create joy and lead you to success and all of these wonderful attributes. So yeah, our brain, our body, it's a magnificent ensemble of energy and matter that does incredible things, but it's not something that we're in the prison of, right? It's something that we can master. It's something that we can affect and impact, and I believe we're meant to. But we have to do the work. We have to become aware of what it is we're driving around all day, and take good care of it, right?
Yeah, and where you're taking your, we are like floodlights, and for the most part during the day, if you don't have mindful practices, if you're not meditating, if you don't have tools to focus like this, then you're like a floodlight all day long, and the light's just going everywhere.
Yeah.
But when you meditate, you have a clear intention, marry it with an elevated emotion. When you have this grid work where you're programming your mind and you're telling your conscious awareness, these are the things I want to focus on. Esther Hicks, since you mentioned Esther Hicks earlier, she talks about asking a better question instead of going again to my left to the unwanted. What am I doing wrong? 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 Your brain goes, oh, you want to know what you're doing wrong? Bleh, let's vomit all over you all the things that you're doing wrong. And so we are going to, in a preponderous way, we are going to like flood you with everything that you're doing wrong, which is just going to depress you and give you more of the unwanted. But you asked, what am I doing wrong? So your Raz is going on a search and destroy mission to show you,
Yeah.
you asked, therefore here you go. But if instead of what am I doing wrong, I'm like, what am I doing right?
Yeah.
Being right minded, on the right track. What am I doing right? What am I doing right? Happy, freedom, fun, sure, love, safe, motivation, joy. And now you just get you
Yep.
you have Niagara Falls of all these wonderful things. Gosh, you know, how good can this get? Niagara Falls of all these wonderful things. It's like, oh my gosh, is there any, surely there can't be any more than, of this. Surely there can't be any more happiness. Surely there can't be any more love. There can't be any more fun. Oh, yeah, there can. That's what your focus is. Let's show you more evidence of that. And so that's why you see people, it's like they seem like they have the Midas touch. It's like everything they touch seems to go to gold. But that's because they learned to turn the other cheek to the right side and focus on what they do want and start to manifest more of that and starve what they don't want. So this is absolutely a beautiful tool to keep on a 24-hour basis. You can keep yourself on track. You set it and forget it, and now your subconscious mind, your conscious mind already wrote down what you wanted. You used your free will to take your light, which was like a floodlight, and now you focused it like a laser beam.
Yep.
That same thing that we do in meditation. We are
Yep.
focusing our light like a laser beam, using our free will to decide, this is my clear intention. This is my target. This is my goal. This is my dream. This is what I want to manifest. And then the emotional aspect, which is like the feeling as if the wish were already fulfilled, as if it were here now. And the moment you feel all that love and you're so grateful and you have so much appreciation for it, that is the manifestation in 5D that makes it pop into our 3D.
Yeah, absolutely. And 100%. Brad even said, I was looking in the chat, he said, it's literally taking non-physical thought and bringing it into the physical world. And Brad's here on the call with us, and I appreciate that. And he's 100% right. There's something else too, is there is and I think you've even heard probably Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about why he does walking meditations, is because you got to do something with your eyes. Like, we can't, it would be very difficult to live the rest of our life sitting, cross-legged with the eyes closed. Like, you have to do things, and when you do things, you do them with your eyes open. Another thing I love about this, it's something that you do. It's something you do with your eyes open, right? And I always ask, a lot of people say they spend several hours in meditation. I go, what do you do while you're in meditation? Oh, I just empty my mind. I go for like 4 hours. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like, what do you like? It's okay to think. You have this beautiful thinking brain, but just control it. I always say, if your mind wanders and it wanders towards something that feels bad, stop. But if your mind wanders and it wanders towards something that feels good, let it go. Like just go have that thought and just embrace those feelings. And because that's what your mind's wanting to do. It's either wandering toward what feels bad because it's asking for that good feeling, in which you need to kind of do some work. You need to figure out what that is and unlock those beliefs or whatever's holding you back. But if your mind's wandering towards something good, let it go. It's just hungry. It wants love. It wants to give you that chemical release that is healthy, the neopeptides, all of that stuff that goes through and replenishes your body, and it gives you that good stuff. Your brain is craving it. Give it to it.
Yeah. That's so true what you're saying. I remember on and off during different times in my life, before and after with Dr. Joe, where you just meditate, and if you don't have a clear intention of what it is that you want to manifest, then which I don't say that with any kind of disrespect, but really, if you don't have a clear intention of what you want to manifest, you can have a meditative practice where the only thing that you benefit from is a feeling of peace and of serenity and of centeredness, and you're manifesting just that state of calm and peacefulness and centeredness, but you're not actually manifesting something tangible that's 3D on the outside, like a house, a car, an opportunity, a change of weather, whatever it might be, or an improved state of health and well-being. So there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just that you just need to be aware that if you don't give it a target, then provided that you've done the inner works, then the new default will then just be a sense of peace, which is a fantastic thing. But the thing is, there's more. You're not just here to be like a rock where you're just with no conflict and just peace. We're here to co-create with the divine, to whatever it is. For example, like as I sit on this chair, someone decided to create this chair with this carving, and so now I'm the benefactor, that because they were inspired to carve the wood and to create that design, I have this cool chair that I get to sit on during these broadcasts. And I was able to purchase that because they took the time to take that inspired action. So it doesn't matter what it is that people decide to do. You can create things that other people are looking to acquire, and your manifestation is the answer to them manifesting in 5D. They're going to go, oh, that's exactly what I had in mind in 5D. You were the path of least resistance for that inspiration to flow through, and now what you created is looking for you, and so it's part of the manifestation. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you take the thought further, right? Like even for your chair, the person who created that chair didn't invent chairs. Right. So like there was chairs. They just took the thought of a chair further. They made it personal. They made it beautiful. And I think that's what, we can all add our own color to things. Like we don't have to be the first person to come up with something, but we can take anything further. If we love it, we can add our own flavor, our own flair to it, and take it further and show show our fellow humans like there's more possible. And that's the benefit and power of inspiration, right? Is the doing, right? If you want to be an inspiration, you're gonna have to find something to do, and then do it with your whole heart.
Absolutely. I want to read here what Brad said. He put in here, and if he wants to talk here in a little bit, I want to give him an opportunity. It says, it's funny that you mention using this concept in art, Lillian. I have a friend that I have introduced these concepts to that actually integrates words into the actual art in an avant-garde way, and it makes for wonderful creations. Ooh, I'd love to see that. It says it is literally taking non-physical thought into the physical world. Oh my gosh, I love this, which is instant manifestation. And Brad also says here that, this is also an oxytocin release, because these are such great feeling emotions that you do have an oxytocin release. Brad, do you want to come on camera, and is there anything that you would like to ask or you'd like to share? Because I know you actually know Clint pretty well and are familiar with this process.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, we're in separate rooms to keep down with the echoes. But the oxytocin release is actually I was mentioning that it's another few techniques that I'm working on. I was just that was a message for Clint, just a little wink at him.
Yeah.
But yes, start over. I wasn't expecting to come on camera.
So talking about the art, I think in the integration of the words into the art. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I forgot a friend, her name's Serena. I'll actually send you some of the artwork that she's done, but she takes specific words and writes them kind of vertically, but to the naked eye, you wouldn't even notice that they were words. But once you know that they're there, you can kind of see you feel the whole vibration of the whole painting. And she does a lot of drips in her work and a lot of really cool things. But yeah, I can send those to you, Lillian.
Yeah, that would be great. Maybe as we're continuing on here and wrapping up here with Clint, maybe you can pull some up on your phone. And if I don't
Oh,
know.
I could actually share them in chat. I
Yeah,
could pull
okay.
some up and share them in chat.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's no limit. So I think the message here is for anyone watching this live or on the replay, know that whatever you are inspired to do with it, maybe someone will write these words down. They will have, okay, 6, 9, 12, 14 words, 16 words. Maybe you'll write them down, and maybe your thing is clay. And maybe you will start to mold clay that will embody the feeling that this group of words give you. Perhaps you are someone that works with macrame, or maybe you knit, and maybe you have a sweater that you'll create, or maybe you design fabrics or textiles, or it really, the expression of how you embody the feeling of whatever these words convey. There's no limit. You may have someone who's a landscaper who can organize flowers in a certain way that will feel a certain way based on these words that are your focal point now. And so now when you look at the way these flowers and these plants with these palm trees and so forth are organized, you have that feeling of freedom, of being sure, of fun, of vivaciousness, of safety, just of this really great loving feeling. So there isn't the expression like Clint said there, that's limitless. Somebody may carve, maybe not invent a chair, but maybe will carve a chair in a certain way that will convey this vibrational frequency, which is how we started this broadcast, with Clint showing us 6 hertz of vibrational frequency.
Yeah.
So
I got another friend I was speaking to earlier today. She's in Canada, and her name's Sunny. She'll watch this later, but she started a new process, basically with the whole grid work, but she's doing it her own way. She's integrating it into a Native American practice that's from around her area, where they do a focus. It's like a wheel, and each part of the wheel, one's for emotional guidance, the middle's for sexuality, the top's for your mind, and to the right of the wheel is for your spirituality. And she's integrating the word work into that type of wheel. So
Super cool.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And it's just whatever feels right for you.
100%. Yep.
that's beautiful. Those are wonderful examples of people who are really making the grid work their own. So I just really love that. That's
The
awesome.
point is just doing the work. It's actually getting out of your own ways. Don't feel silly about it. Get a pen, get a piece of paper, and get through the silliness. No one's there but you. Do it in privacy, and you'll get over it. And then you'll start to see results after you get out of your way.
Yep. Got to make the effort. You got to show up for yourself. Yeah. And always, like, it's probably I feel like the number one advice I give anybody I work with is, do what works for you. And if it's not working, stop. Just stop, right? Like, if it's not providing you value, if it's adding frustration, fine, you gotta go looking. You gotta start asking. Just keep looking for something else. So hopefully, from this, and thank you, Brad, for those things that you share as well. Like, people can see that it's not about trying to follow a prescribed set of formula. It's just about using a method to connect with yourself, to open yourself up. And I believe the law of attraction works in wonderful ways. So most likely, if you're watching this, you're watching it for a reason. It made it to you for a reason. So hopefully this is something that is helpful and meant for you, or leads you to that next thing. And if you come up with new ways, just like Brad was talking about, let us know. I would love to see how people are creatively applying this in their own unique ways. And if it's working for them, beautiful.
Yeah. So, Clint, this has been an amazing hour, and I really want to encourage you to come back on. And I know we talked a little bit about maybe doing a series where maybe for 3 or 4 weeks, every week, once a week, we'll come back on and we'll elaborate and we'll talk more about this and give people more of at the same time of having instruction, they'll also have an accountability where they're able to come in, and like Brad, they'll be able to come into the Zoom and participate. And I think that would be a really fun and exciting plan for us to execute. And I think that there's so many applications for people. We're looking at this, there's no limits to how you can do this, like we just mentioned. You can do this for your personal well-being. Basically you're putting your hands on the steering wheel of your life and deciding, okay, this is the direction that I want to go, and I want to turn in the right direction. But you might have someone who's going, well, you know what, my family life is pretty good, my financial life is pretty good, but you know what, my career is kind of boring and flat, and I might be making a lot of money or making okay money, but it really doesn't do anything for me anymore, and I really would like to make a change, and I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Well, this would be a perfect place to start, because you can actually start to sit down and go, okay, how do I want to feel in my career?
Yeah.
For career, or you could use it for finances, or you can use it for your relationship. All those aspects touch every aspect of your life. So you could use it for fitness. It's like, okay, I
Yep.
want to feel these emotions when it comes to my body, and how I feel in terms of how physically fit I am, how healthy I am. There's no limits, my friends and gems. And so we will, I think, talk about those different points and aspects, and maybe give some more examples. Clint, I know you've used it very comprehensively for quite some time now, so I think people would be very intrigued to see and hear. And also, I remember you mentioning that there was actually a teacher that you were able to go into a classroom. And you
Mhm.
guys, will you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think what a phenomenal tool for children to have.
Yeah, so there's there was two instances with teachers. So one with the my local school here, just watching the behaviors of the teachers, you could tell they were stressed out by all the COVID protocols and all these crazy things. So I actually talked to the principal there, and went into the teaching staff and talked to them about this, and helped show them how to utilize this technique for themselves to just kind of help maintain stability, and care for these wonderful children, and find those places of happiness. And then also, yeah, while we were at Dr. Joe's, Suma, a friend of ours that we met, she was also said she's actually going to take this and start teaching it to grade school children. So it's super simple, right? Like kids get feelings, and so starting to teach them at an early age that they have emotional control, they can decide how they want to feel, they can make those choices, and then gives them something fun that they can play with. As you were saying, yeah, I think it'd be great to do some kind of series, and maybe if it works out, if someone wants to come join us on the Zoom call, and maybe they want to say, look, here's the situation in my life, how would we apply it? We'll work together, and we can figure that out right there, and help some people go through, because as people are willing to come forward and share their experience and their journey to finding success, and other people get to witness that, it can help many people through that effort. So
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that can be helped. Also, small, medium, large size businesses from a corporate perspective. Can you imagine the guidance, the focus, the clarity, the certainty that people will have when you have sales teams, for example, who now have a clear vision? They can start, the first 15 minutes of their workday, where it's like, okay, maybe in their office meeting, some companies have once a week, some of them have 3 times a week, doesn't really matter. But everyone can start to adopt it into, if they get trained on this, they can start to implement this, and you could really see drastic results in a very short period of time in terms of sales, satisfaction, just well-being for
yeah.
entire organization. So whether it's a school organization, whether it's a sales organization, whether it's a family, can you imagine a whole family? If you had a family of, a mother, father, and a kid, or 2, 3 kids employing this together, how
Right.
powerful that would be.
Yeah.
So there's so many applications to this. I really think that this is a simple tool that anyone can adopt. So, Clint, what's the best place for people to reach you if they want to connect with you? Of course, we've got this YouTube channel here, but where is another place where they can reach out to you? And if they want to ask you a specific question, if they want to book you, whatever, for a speaking engagement or any kind of workshop or boot camp or retreat, where is the best place for them to reach you?
So probably the most direct route would be to email me at my company website. So that's Clint, CLINT, at evolvingmindsets.com, and there's a hyphen between evolving, so it's evolving-mindsets.com. And if you want to shoot me an email there, I check it fairly regularly. I'll check in with you. We are also we do have a Facebook community, still fairly small and growing. Building a YouTube channel, not a lot of content there yet, but they will be coming. But the website, evolving-mindsets.com, the links and stuff, and as we kind of grow and develop, all of that will be there. So yeah, so feel free to, if anyone wants to reach out, connect with me, and do some work together. I love collaborating and seeing people. I always say there's no greater moment for me than when I see the light in someone's eyes. It makes me feel good when I see people start to realize that moment and where they go, I can do this. I believe in myself. Like it's worth more than money. It's worth more than anything, because that's a powerful creator recognizing their own internal power and setting their self out on a journey for their joy.
That is absolutely magnificent. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my friends and gems. It's Clint, CLINT, at evolving-mindsets.com. I'm going to repeat it one more time, and we are also going to have it in the description below here in the YouTube channel. And it's Clint, CLINT, at evolving-mindsets, plural.com.
Yeah.
Clint, I could talk to you for the next 4 hours, but I know you have to get to sleep. And so I just thank you for your time. I thank you for your transparency. Brad, I also thank you for joining us here tonight and for your contribution with this broadcast as well. My friends and gents, any questions, comments, concerns, anything, just make sure you put it in the comments below. We'll make sure that Clint gets to them. And we'll be announcing soon, very, very shortly, when we will start the series. We're going to book this as soon and as quickly as we can. We know that everyone is busy, but we really do both have a passion for bringing this content to you and empowering you so that you can apply this with confidence, with certainty, knowing that you are right-minded and on the right track now. So thank you, my friends and gems.
Thank you.
Thank you.